Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Tearing It Up. As I mentioned recently, we have a lot of content that is not bike specific, which is great because we turn into the unofficial bike podcast in the summer and have a lot of conversations around biking. This one is still very much going to have to do with the outdoors and whatnot, but I'm excited to dive in with my guest here, Teresa Baker, who has a lot of experience in the outdoor industry. And before we got on this recording, we had an intro chat the other week, and the way our conversation was going, I just couldn't wait to dive in and really get into kind of like what people are feeling right now kind of in the world, some struggles a lot of women she's spoken to in the outdoor industry are having, and just overall, and joy is gonna be a big topic for us and making sure we're finding that and or how to find it, I guess, if maybe you lost it. So this is gonna be a really good one, and I just can't wait to talk more with you, Teresa. And she's just down the hill from me in Grass Valley. So as we are recording today, Teresa, where are you physically at?
I am physically in Grass Valley. It's way too hot, so I may be trying to stumble towards the coast at some point.
Yeah, it gets a lot warmer just down the hill there than it does here in Truckee. I was hoping that we'd be able to arrange it to, like, me go down there and mountain bike and have the conversation in person, but, we got on pretty quick, from our intro call, and that's great. I'm glad to be able to just, like, get this conversation out there because I
Yeah,
think it's so, so, so needed. Um, and I don't do well in the heat anyway, so I'm like, I'd have
I
to be
was
down there super early to ride my bike, and it's
I
getting
was
to that point.
thinking if she tries to ride her bike, she's gonna pass out.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. Actually for us here in Tahoe, so this is the you guys will be hearing this in July. This is towards the end of June right now. We're recording and we actually have a cold front coming in this
Oh,
weekend here in
wow.
Tahoe with some rain in the forecast and potentially snow like really up high in the
Whoa.
mountains. So we'll see. I mean, I do hope it clears up for the 4th of July because I want to get out that weekend
Yeah,
and do some stuff and have a nice weather for my birthday, which is the 6th, but we'll see. Because I also,
cool.
like I said, don't do the heat, so I'll take any type of cold fronts there are from
Yeah,
June to
yeah.
August.
Agreed, agreed.
And, so I do wanna ask just from seeing your background right now, it looks like you, are in maybe like a are you in a tiny home or like a
Just a friend's place,
Oh,
just
okay.
hanging out. The reception is kinda shaky, so I try and find a spot where I'll have, some consistent, connectivity, so
I hear that, I'm in my trailer up on top of a well, I like to call it our little mountain, and so we have Starlink, and yeah, I've struggled through those times of like, "No, why is the connection bad today? There's not a cloud in the sky," and this and
yeah.
that, but it looks like there's a really cool spiral staircase, and I'm a sucker for a spiral
Huh.
staircase, so I was like, "What is this place here?" And it looks amazing.
Cool, cool, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Teresa, will you tell the people out there what it is you like do in the industry organizations you're involved with, founded and all that
Yeah.
information?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. Um, I am the founder of the In Solidarity Project, and we do various, programs throughout the year, film projects, um, in-person gatherings, and what we try to do is make the work of inclusion in the outdoors something that folks feel they can accomplish without feeling too much pressure. So that's the work that I do with the In Solidarity Project, where I'm the founder. I am the co director at ODA, which is the Outdoor Diversity Alliance, where we do pretty much the same thing, working on making the outdoor industry more diverse and fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I am curious how you found yourself, in the outdoor industry in the first place. I love to get a little backstory on our guests and, you know, said, explain to others, like, how they found their way. Was the outdoors something that was tied to your life from, like, a young age? Did it come upon later in life? Everyone has such a different story of how and why they connected to whatever it is they do outside, hike, run, bike, camp,
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah, growing up, I'm the only girl of 9. I have 8 brothers. So, I just grew up being competitive, not just with my brothers, but with the community in itself. I grew up playing basketball, football, baseball, hiking and biking, and my family had a horse ranch, and we would go to the horse ranch often in the Salinas Valley. So I just grew up being outdoorsy, but I didn't know to put a title to it. It was just something I did. It was something that if someone said, "Oh, you can't do that," bet.
Yes.
So I was always taking on challenges, no matter what. So that just grew into my being. I played sports throughout high school, coached at the high school level, basketball, was a basketball fanatic. I swore that I was going to be the first woman in the NBA. And then injuries took over, and I was like, "Oh, well, maybe not the first, but at some point." So, yeah, that was just my background, being competitive in the outdoors.
That's so cool. I love it because it really resonates with me in what you said about, like, I didn't know there was a title to put on anything. These were just the things that I did.
Right.
Um, and I've told this story before. Those of you out there who've listened a lot, have maybe heard it. But I Yeah, I mean, I was so lucky to grow up with support of my family and friends in a very male-dominated sport, which was wrestling, and while, yeah, I knew there wasn't a lot of girls doing it, since
Yeah,
my closest people supported me, I didn't think much of it, and it wasn't until later in life that I started like, hearing stories and seeing all these women's groups pop up and how needed, like, the support was in these groups to help get women out there who were not introduced to it early on or didn't have the support around them or whatnot. I was like, "Oh, wow," that's what really fired up my passion to get more women out there too, is to give back basically that support that I always received growing up.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it was just kind of a beautiful thing to grow up not feeling any different or unwelcome, and not many people get
yeah,
that experience. I mean, having 8 brothers, like, how
yeah,
could you not do those things, right? You'd probably have a harder time if you were, like, not involved in those and trying
true,
to do the
true.
more stereotypical, like, girl things. They're gonna be,
Yeah,
like, picking at you or not leaving you alone anyway, so to a certain extent, it's like, you're gonna have to just roll with the punches and do
that's
what the
true.
boys do.
That's true, that's true, and it was fun. I didn't I noticed I was the only girl doing these things, and, I was taunted with, "Oh, you're a tomboy. Oh, you're
Yep.
a this." But for whatever reason, that didn't bother me. I was like, "Don't be mad because I can do what you can't do." I didn't let it bother me. Um, the guys that I grew up with in the neighborhood, they were accepting of me.
Mhm.
So I didn't really have any issues, with being the only girl. It wasn't
Yep.
until I became an adult in the real world that I started to notice how different that was, especially in the outdoor industry.
Absolutely, same. Like I said, that's, like, my story kinda to a T, and I feel a lot of times that I'm, like, kinda doing things in reverse, where it's like I had this confidence and was, just doing the thing, and because I was accepted by the people around me, that they didn't
Right.
make me feel so, like, weird or unwanted or can't do
Yeah.
this. It was like, "No, I can do anything that the
Right.
boys do." And I'm like, got into my adult life and started to feel kinda insecure, question
Mm.
things, and it's like, "Wait a second, normally you go through this early in stage, gain
Yeah,
or
yeah.
early in age and, gain
Right.
confidence later," and I had almost like an identity crisis that I
Oh,
sometimes
wow.
still feel like I go through at times that
Mm.
I question myself and things a lot more, but I think that has to do with pressure of, social media and those things as well, and the industries that I'm in, like personal training, where you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Well, I don't look like this, hard body gym person. Who's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
take advice from me or whatnot?" Like, again, those questioning things that I was just lucky to not have inundate my mind as much as a younger adult or child
Yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah.
did as an older adult, and I'm like, "Wait, why is this happening?" Just like I said,
Yeah.
felt like things were going backwards, but,
Yeah.
I am curious about kinda your journey into the industry
Yeah.
as an adult. Like, how did you get involved in working with the industry and support advocating for more
Yeah.
diverse folks to get outside since you, experienced, like, kind of welcoming like, what was that point in life where you were like, "Wait, people are questioning me and what I know and what I can do?"
Yeah, I've always been an outdoor person, period. I would go to Yosemite at least once a month. I would hop on Amtrak, and a lot of people don't know you can take Amtrak to like Modesto and then hop on the Yosemite bus. So I would do that literally at least once a month. And I would go so often that I would see other people talk about, "Oh, I wanna go to Yosemite at least once in my life," and I'm like, "Ugh, okay." But it was I don't know why this happened, but about 10 years ago, on a trip to Yosemite, I started looking around and noticing the people who were around, and it was surprising. I was like, "Dang, I don't see anybody that looks like me." I don't see any black women here. I don't see any black people, period. Not just in visitors, but in the staff makeup of
Mm,
Yosemite. So I was there in the park for about a week. And when I returned home, I reached out to DC, the National Park Service, and I said, "Hey, I think you guys have a problem." And they said, "Yeah, we know. Help us fix it." So it was then that I started working on these issues of lack of diversity in our national parks specifically. So for the next 3, 4 years, that was it. I just worked on getting more people from underrepresented communities out into our national parks. And I slowly became aware of the outdoor industry and the makeup
mhm,
of what the industry looked like. Um, Reached out to brands, created a film around lack of diversity. A guy named Robert Hanna and Jason Fitzpatrick agreed that we would do a film in Yosemite talking about this issue. And then I started getting calls from outdoor brands. Rose Macario from Patagonia reached out and said, "Hey, I'm aware of your film. Can we talk?" So it was, people reaching out saying, "Yeah, we understand that's an issue." And then slowly I started seeing the work around making the industry in itself more diverse. But there's always been women, no, black women, white women, whatever. Women were always and remain underrepresented when
mhm.
it comes to leadership in our outdoor brands. So I started thinking, damn it, now I have to do something specific to women. So I
Yeah.
started working on women's issues in the outdoors, created a women's outdoor summit where we had over 150 women attend. And recently folks started reaching out and saying, "Hey, can you do another women's summit?" So I'm doing another women's summit, Women, Nature, and Joy Summit in August, where I'm bringing together women who work and play in the outdoors to talk about some of these issues, but most importantly, to remember our joy.
I love all of that. And I wanna step back a little bit into when you first got involved with helping diversify the national parks.
Mhm.
Did you How did you reach people? And, like, were you reaching out to people trying to find out why first? You know, they weren't there. What were the, like, roadblocks in people, getting to the national parks? Or where did your work there begin to even know how to reach out to people and then how to get
Yeah.
those folks into those areas?
Yeah, I think once you find a path that you wanna take, people will start to reveal themselves to you.
Mm,
You
mhm.
know, a a path will present itself, and that's what happened. You know, people started reaching out, saying, "Let's have a conversation." Audrey and Frank Peterman, who were doing amazing work in our national parks. They were helpful in helping me get in contact with various parks. Rue Map with Outdoor Afro, she was doing amazing work. And Mr. Jose Gonzalez, the one and only. Um, we started hanging out and having conversations. And that's all it took, really, was having these conversations and finding ways to bridge that gap between
Mhm.
those who were there and those who weren't. And once all these conversations started happening, the work became easy because it
Yeah.
was just making people aware of these parks. Not saying that they weren't aware, but
Mhm.
making sure they knew how to get there. You know,
Simply what
people,
you just shared on your journey of, like, taking the train to what Modesto and
yeah,
then getting on the bus, right? People don't always, because they may just instantly stop, say, "Hey, that park's, X amount of hours
yeah,
away," or
yeah,
whatnot, and
yeah,
not even begin to know on how to find out how to get there, right? I mean,
yeah,
people instantly a lot of people just don't wanna do the research or, again, don't know where to start, and that overwhelming, like, analysis paralysis kinda thing can absolutely happen, and it
yeah,
feels like whatever colored car phenomenon, like, right? You get a blue
yeah.
car, and all of a sudden you notice all the blue cars on the road, just
Huh,
like you said, like, once you start down that path, all of a sudden, these doors are opening, these conversations
starting to
are
reveal.
opening. Yeah, it
Yeah,
exists,
yeah,
but you just have to take that first step, and it gets
yeah,
a lot easier. That snowball effect can happen, but that getting started, just like with anything,
yeah.
is the
I
hardest part.
I think people know what's out there, but it's the how.
Yeah.
How do I get there? How do I access it? What do I do once I'm there? We are so accustomed to what's around us. And I don't want people to think that stepping outside your front door and going to a city park or
Mhm.
a local park, a regional park, a state park isn't just as amazing because it is. I
Mhm.
want to reframe our thinking on what the outdoors is. It's not climbing El Cap in an
Yeah.
hour. It's not hiking the PCT completely in a day.
Mhm.
You can get outdoors and love on nature wherever you are. As it relates to our national parks, most people have to get in a car and drive. We wanted to do that with the people, to show them or to share with them how easy it is or how easy it can be to access these places without having a vehicle.
Mhm.
So, taking the train, taking the bus, carpooling with folks, we wanted to make sure that all of those things were shared with people. And it worked
Mhm.
because so many affinity groups started forming and getting people out because there is value in these affinity groups because people feel left out.
Yeah.
And that's just anyone. I've seen some kick ass groups form, women groups over the past 3 years, where their sole purpose is to get people outdoors. And they're doing amazing at that. And that's all we wanted to do. was to say, "Hey, this is possible. Here's a path forward."
Yeah, it's amazing, and like I said, sometimes people just don't know what is possible, so as soon as you can reach out to them and let them know, like, "Look, your number one kind of, like, accessibility block is getting there. Here's how you can do it."
Yeah.
And I'm curious, when I'm thinking about brands and outdoor brands, right, obviously their job is to sell some kind of gear,
Right,
right?
right,
And that
right.
can be another
Yeah,
accessibility problem for people, or at least just in their minds, right? Thinking like, well, I don't have the right gear to go
yeah,
outside and hike this national park. I need like at least a good pair of hiking boots. They may not know much about the different kinds of apparel out there, be too far into that thinking they need that, but at least the shoes, right?
right.
Was there, did you come across any issues like that with people, or ways to help folks feel outfitted and comfortable to get
Yeah,
outdoors, or what brands, like,
yeah,
perception or ideas were behind that?
yeah. That's a good word, outfitted. And I think a lot of people run into that. This false perception that you have to have, the most expensive gear to get outdoors. My friend CJ Golden, he's talked about just wearing simple Nikes
Yeah.
and getting outdoors. Um, and I think that's what we need to make people aware of,
Mhm.
is that you don't need the most expensive gear. Sure, these retailers and such, they want to sell you that stuff, and it's a lot of good stuff.
Mhm.
I can't tell you how packed my storage is with stuff. You
Same.
know, tents, stuff that I haven't used,
Mm.
but it came in a certain color, so I wanted it.
Yeah.
I reached out to some brands and I said, "Hey, folks are reaching out to me for gear. Can you send me some stuff so I can send it to them?" And brands all stepped up, and
Awesome.
said, "We're going to send you gear so that you can get them fitted." Um, we hold various campouts throughout the year where we provide folks with gear. Um, but Yeah, I don't want people to have that be, yet another obstacle of
Right.
being outdoors. Um, Go to your local stores, Big 5, REI has sales throughout the year where you can get gear at reasonable prices. There
Mhm.
are gear libraries everywhere. A lot more popping up here in California where folks can rent gear,
Yeah.
camping equipment, and take their family camping and experience using that equipment. And then if they like it, then they can, go out and purchase it. Don't go out and spend $500 immediately on a tent
Yeah,
and you don't know if
exactly.
that tent's going to work for you. So do some of go to some of the gear libraries and borrow some of their equipment. Even REI has a gear library.
That's I mean, there's amazing resources these days for also, like, used gear. So many brands have second cycle, like, websites or things like that where you can get things for cheaper, but also what you mentioned is you don't have to go you don't have to wait to have the most perfect gear, and because I've been in the industry for so long, even myself, I'm like, again, y'all who've been listening have probably been tired of hearing by now my, like, first bike packing journey where I was, like, putting it off because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I should have it's like that almost too much knowledge that prevents you
Yeah.
then, because I know what
Yeah, yeah.
would work better than what I have, but I don't wanna acquire it because I still don't know if I'm actually gonna love it. I don't wanna spend money on the lightest weight things if I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
don't see myself going out that much bike packing. Um, but yeah, it still stopped me for a long time of like, I gotta wait till it's like, better
Yeah.
stuff, better conditions, this, that, or the other." And it's like, no, you really can use what you've got, and a lot of the national parks also have very accessible hikes and things
Yeah.
where you don't have to have a lot of gear and all of this. I'd say most of the hike, if you're an very experienced outdoor person and hiker, then a lot of the trails and things in national parks are like probably easy to you versus what you're doing in your own, random backyard finding something. So they are purposefully made a lot more accessible for the general public,
Yeah,
that these trails are flattered. At least there are the options for them. Obviously, there are in places like Yosemite and whatnot, hikes and things that you should have more experience in, maybe like better shoes than a flat-soled, not very grippy bottom shoe or
yeah,
something, but there are ways to get out there and explore these areas in
yeah,
a very, like, kind of calm, tame manner, and that goes for everything out there too, but you don't know where to like, you don't know what you don't know, and
right.
so having people out there like you at least advocating for that, showing people what is possible without a bunch of experience or expensive things,
Yeah,
um, is still very, very much needed, and as you said, you started to focus on, like, women specifically, and because there was a gap still in the
yeah,
leadership portion of the outdoor industry. This is a conversation since I talked with you the other week. I've had multiple conversations with other women where you just feel like you're hitting a wall. Like, we've been out here screaming from the rooftops. There's a lot more women in positions that weren't before, but still
yeah,
the missing link is at the higher end are
yeah.
higher positions, and it still feels like it's super hard to get there or to feel listened to if you're not there.
Yeah. I think changes are happening.
Mhm,
Women are moving up in these positions, but what we can't afford to assume is that women want to be there.
mhm,
All too often, I kept saying, why aren't there any women CEOs? Why aren't there this? Why aren't there that? And then someone stopped me and they're like, what if I don't want to be there? What if I want to be in the outdoor industry, but not take on that role of a CEO because there are so many responsibilities? So I don't want to assume that that is where all women want to be. But what I know, because how many women come to me and say, I'm done.
mhm,
I've spent 12, 15 years here and I'm still not at the level I want to be at. I I want the industry to speak to them, to not just continuously make promises on all you got to do is one, two, three, and you'll get there. I want them to show in action that it's possible for more than just a few women to get there. Um, and for the women who are there, I say to them, don't forget all it took for you to get there. You
mhm,
know, reach back and show these women that it's possible.
mhm,
Take an email from them, a phone call from them, so that they don't continue to feel discouraged. If we as women don't support one another, then those high level positions will always be held by men. So, as a collective, we have to find a way to continuously support one another, which again is why I'm doing the Women's Outdoor Summit in August.
yeah, so was the first one last year, or when did you do the first summit?
The first one was, gosh, about 6 years ago,
Oh,
before
okay,
the pandemic hit, before the
okay,
pandemic, and it was held at the Presidio of San Francisco in partnership with the National Park Service. And like I said, we had over 150 women attend that one. And it was amazing. We had speakers, we had campouts, we had Hip Camp join us for marshmallow roasting. It
cool.
was an awesome time had by so many people, but this year's summit, we only had room for 65 people,
Mhm,
and we received over 200 applications. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to say yes to everyone, but what this says is the need is there.
mhm,
The need for women to gather in nature and remember our joy, it's there. The
mhm,
need is there. So I want to do it again. I don't have any details yet. Um, but I wanna do it again so that more people can join us.
Well, I think it's great to start at this smaller circle, 150 people 6 years ago. Amazing, it's needed, wanted because in the last few years, people have been asking for it again.
Yeah,
And the fact that you got over 200 application
yeah,
means like you just said, it is needed, it is wanted. But sometimes these smaller like groups and events can have such a big impact too. And it's nice to kind of to take it down to that smaller group and do a couple more or something, or at least
yeah,
have the smaller ones, and then there's the room for, like, the really big one, and
yeah,
where you're hitting on different things for
yeah,
each
different
event.
topics. Yeah,
Yeah, um, and what I'm curious about is what you were hearing people were wanting from this summit in those 200,
yeah,
like, applications.
huh,
I don't know exactly what your questions were from
yeah,
them or if there's some kind of main theme or a couple of themes that women were why they wanted
yeah.
to attend this.
Yeah, there was a question on the application that said, "What would you say to the outdoor industry?" And some of the responses were wild. But the I would say the one theme to that question was see us,
Mm,
hear us. That was the overwhelming response, to be
mhm,
seen and to be heard. I received messages from women who said, I don't care. I have to be there. If all I do is stand in the middle of the campground and stare at people, I just need to be there. I need to be in nature. I need to be reminded of joy
yeah,
and nature and how nature calms us and nature brings us that joy that in this moment we need. I mean, there's so much happening in the country. It's like every morning you wake up, something else. So
mhm,
it's like people just want that joy. They want to be reminded that it's okay to be happy.
mhm.
It's okay to smile, to laugh, to have fun. And that is what this is about. We'll have activities, but there'll be moments where we don't have to do anything.
Oh, yeah, that's what people need right now too,
That's what
is,
they
like,
that
feeling
is
like
what
you
they
don't
want.
have to do something because, like you said, with the dumpster fire of the world around us, it is also part of that analysis paralysis. You think there's so much going on and I don't even know what I can do to
Yeah.
help, but I also feel like if I like doing nothing is
Is an option
yeah.
in the outdoors. If you're just there in the outdoors, I promise you there is so much happening to regulate our joy right now. The pushback is to be there in nature and to love on nature and
Mhm,
to simply embrace the people that are around you and have difficult conversations.
mhm,
Because I expect that's what we will have are
mhm.
some difficult conversations. But there'll be people there, CEOs to people who have never been camping, and they want to do it for the first time with a bunch of women.
Yeah,
That's what this is going to do. And my hope is that the industry will take heed to this and be like, oh, it can be that simple. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be a gathering at one of the trade shows. It can be women, it can be people, not just women, but people coming together in the outdoors to hike, to camp, to sit around the campfire in conversation. That's what we need. That is what we are missing.
yeah,
We make joy so difficult that people feel, "Oh, I don't have what it takes to be happy. I'm too, you know, I'm too far to the left or too far to the right, trying to deal with, the mess that's happening in this country,
mhm,
that I can't take time out
yeah,
to simply be." And I just want people to remember that. Nature is always there. Even if you don't go or come to the women's camp out, go by yourself. Take a solo hike on a gentle trail,
Yeah.
something that's not complicated. And just listen to the birds and remember what that feels like when the hard times hit again, because hard times are going to come and go. We have to mentally remember that joy is possible and that we can be in joy by simply taking to the outdoors and remembering our why.
Mhm.
Why are we there? To protect our public lands, to remember that we love hiking or whatever. I just want people, women specifically, to know that nature can provide that.
Absolutely. I think also within all of the things happening around us, and obviously as women and other minority groups have been hit with a lot of other things as well, rights being, you know, questioned, taken back, on the fence, and, like, you just feel guilty almost
Yeah,
for feeling joy. I think there's a lot of people out there who feel guilty for having happiness or doing something that's enjoyable because of the threats around
yeah,
us. And I think Meg Carney did an episode on this in the Outdoor Minimalist like a while back, about climate action and the anxiety that some
yeah,
people are
yeah,
feeling from it, that it just shuts them down completely. And again, that's back to what I reference this very often, and is the analysis paralysis. Like, there's
yeah,
so much and I don't feel like I can go enjoy this or can go do that. Or something I mentioned to you on our intro call too was, what happens when the things that once brought you joy, like, aren't bringing you joy anymore, or you just feel so kind of down and lost that it's hard to even get yourself out to go do that thing. Like, I know riding my bike will bring me joy, but I just cannot for the life of me drum up the energy to, like, get out there and
yeah,
do it, you know? Like, do you have any advice for people? I think you kinda already hit of just getting out on a gentle trail, right? For someone who may feel a little bit lost and not really know where or how to find joy?
yeah. For me, there are moments when I'm just completely frustrated.
Mhm,
I'm like, shit, there's another thing that they're fighting to take away from us. You know, these things are going to be here. But if we allow moments to regulate our joy, then we'll never have it.
mhm,
We have to be intentional in remembering our joy when moments of sadness come. We
mhm.
have to be intentional in getting outdoors. I promise you, if you get outdoors on a trail, listen to nothing but the freaking birds around you, seeing the wildlife, there's no way you can't be happy in that moment unless you're intentionally trying to not be happy. And sometimes I think that's what's happening is they are intentionally trying to remove our joy
Mhm.
so that we're like, okay, whatever you want to do, just do it. There'll be no resistance to that. That's where they want us to be. We can't give in to that. As a nation, we can't give in to that. We
Mhm.
must remember our joy no matter what. We have to get our kids outdoors and away from these screens so much, especially now that summer is here. Get
Yes.
them out. They will find a freaking stick to find happiness with. They don't care, you know? And that's what I want for us as adults to do is to get outdoors no matter what news comes. Get outdoors. I promise you, joy will take over. And I'm not saying get outdoors for 6 hours every day, but make it intentional that at least weekly you
Yeah.
get out for a walk. Or when some horrible news comes, get outdoors and let nature, surround you with positivity. That's what I can say, and perhaps it will not work for everybody, but damn it, it works for me, and it
Yeah.
works for a lot of people who are out there who care about our public lands. Our public lands are under attack, and they
Mhm.
need our joy right now to keep them protected.
It absolutely works for me too, and sometimes I forget how simple it can be because I, again, I'm immersed in the outdoors, so sometimes I think to get that feeling I really want or need, I gotta go plan this, like, big bike ride or trek or whatever, and I don't have time for that, but obviously, I'm pretty damn lucky to be where I am with wilderness surrounding me in a very quiet area that for me, it can be as simple as taking my cup of coffee outside and standing in a patch of sun for 5 minutes and be like, "Oh my gosh, like, okay, yeah, this is the regulating that system that I need." It can be that small, small dose that, like I said, sometimes I forget that it can be just that to get your day started, and that doesn't mean that, oh, you're gonna go bask in the sun for a few minutes and the rest of your day is gonna be easy peasy, everything's gonna
No,
fly off your
no.
back like water off a duck's back or something. It could mean that at least for 5 minutes I have some peace, and then, when I
Yeah,
get back to my day to day and, I may have frustrating work situations. I definitely may get frustrated with things going on in the world the rest of the day, but I at least had that some bit of system regulation
yeah,
versus not having any of it at all, and I am the
right.
first to say that I can be kind of all or nothing as a
Mm,
person and have to remember that these little, little things do add up and make a difference. It
yeah,
doesn't have to be the biggest session of anything, even like I take things back to working out a lot, for it to
yeah,
count, you can get 5 squats in, all right? That's
yeah,
something, right? If you couldn't go to the gym for an hour or get a heavy workout in or whatever,
right,
little things do count and matter, and we can't always hang our hats on, like, it has to be
right.
this big, big thing or not, and I think that, yeah, finding those simple moments that can you just go outside of your house in the morning? If you've got a family, like, can you take 5 minutes to yourself just out the back door
Yeah,
and try not to listen to the screaming children for a 1 minute or something?
yeah,
And I know it's very hard for some people in the thick of life. I think about my brother and his sister and my sister-in-law a lot, and there's with 3 kids and multiple dogs that they don't have a lot of quiet in their house or time, but
yeah,
so that can make those little tiny moments matter even more.
yeah, yeah. I think we have to constantly remind ourselves that the moment that we are currently in as a country will eventually pass. How are we preparing now
Mhm,
for when the moment passes?
mhm,
Who will we be as a country when this moment passes? We have to start preparing for that now. And part of that is nature, remembering our joy in the outdoors. We have a lot to be upset for, but we also have a lot to be grateful for.
mhm.
And I would hope that people could focus on that when the hard times really hit and make you frustrated with life and everything about it. We have to remember our joy. If we are without joy, we are without hope.
Ugh,
And we need hope more than anything right now. So my message to folks is to get outdoors. Remember your joy. Reach out to local community groups who gather in the outdoors, who do community campouts or community hikes. Reach out to your state parks, your regional parks, who have docents there who lead talks and walks. Do it. I
ye
promise you, things will not be the best, but I promise you, things will look brighter. Things will look better when we lead with joy, above all.
Yeah, it's so good and true, and we did an episode a while back with Jenny from Boot Tan Fest, and it was titled, like, "Joy as Resistance." That was very much of our conversation where
Yeah,
this gathering of femme-identifying people, there might be times where hard conversations are being had, but it's in a supportive group. It's there so that you can have these hard conversations, but if you can are not having any of that joy and just giving up, that's exactly what they want. They want to tire us
Yeah,
out, exhaust us, burn us out, that you don't feel like you can even try
yeah,
anymore, and it's like, yes, the fight every day for something new is exhausting, but as you're mentioning, finding your personal joy can help keep that spark alive just that much to give you the power to keep going and
yeah,
getting through and keeping that hope alive, because once
yeah.
that hope is gone and you're not finding any joy and we're just laying down and
There's
letting
nothing.
yeah,
There's
then we
nothing.
did lose it all. Then we really
Yeah,
did lose it all.
right, exactly. And I don't think we as a people are losing that.
Yeah.
I think we as a people need us as a people to continue to find joy when we in gatherings
Mhm.
and quiet times where we're out on a gentle trail by ourselves and just listening to the birds. You know, I things can get ugly, and I know that people can just sit back and be like, "What can I do?
Mhm.
What can I do?" and just throw our hands up. But that's giving in. You know, we have to resist in a positive way,
Mhm.
and we can do that. We can engage in good trouble, you know, and that's my philosophy going forward is cause as much good trouble as I can.
Yeah, I like that good trouble.
Yeah, and remember my joy above all. And some people may say that's too simple, it won't work. Well, try it.
That's the thing, is
Dare
the
you to
simple
try
things
it.
do work. The simple things, the
Yeah,
foundational things of everything. Again, what I go back to all the time is like sport, athletics, working out. Those foundational movements and building blocks of life are the foundations for a reason.
yeah,
They're what we can build upon, and sometimes we have to go back to those, start there, and build back up. But if we lose the foundation or quit, pulling from them at all, then that, pyramid topples. It's like playing Jenga. You pull those bottom ones out, everything's gonna
right,
fall over.
right.
You need
So
those
yeah,
bottom blocks,
yeah.
um, and sometimes you just have to unstack that and start from the
No,
bottom, go
I get
simple.
I get it. Sometimes, the foundation the f the foundation in which we build has to be joy because the top pieces, they can take away all
Mhm,
the time.
mhm.
But if you let them get to your foundation, that's when we crumble. And
Yeah,
this country is too strong to crumble. And I believe in the foundation of joy. And I believe that that is what will save us as we move forward. And for me, that's it. I
mhm.
cannot let my foundation be bothered.
I love it, it's so good and so true, and I mean, 'cause as many people out there, have had the mental struggles lately with everything going on in life. I think, again, as women of certain ages as well, you have a lot of other things on your mind that make you feel crazy, alone, and unsure, and
Yeah.
what's next, and this and that. But finding those simple, simple things of bringing you joy can just move that needle so much, or at least, like I said, keep that spark flickering because we just can't let it
Yes.
go out. Like, we
Yes.
gotta keep that flicker, at least keep the pilot light on, baby, because, like,
Yeah.
once it
And I
goes out,
think
we're
we're
in a heck
doing
of a
that.
lot more trouble.
I think people are doing that. I think some people just need permission to know that it's okay to smile, it's
Mhm.
okay to laugh, it's okay to live in joy with all that's happening around us. Don't let the ugliness win.
Yeah, absolutely, we cannot, and if you're out there listening and in those hard times and just having struggling trying to find any bit of joy in life or whatnot, break it back down. Go to the very, very simplest thing that can give you joy. Hell, it might be like, I'm gonna get a fucking $8 latte, okay? Because that's gonna make me smile today. Like, it can be that
Yeah,
simple. It's
yeah,
like, it. have the cookie, do, something that, like, helps you
Yeah,
smile, listen to your favorite song, look at photos,
right.
I don't know, there can be something so, so simple for a minute of your life in the
Yeah,
day will make you smile, because I think a
yeah.
lot of us go through days where we're not doing that at all, and I can tend to be hardwired to focus on, like, the negative as well, and yeah, even this morning, I'm like, "Shit, I got 5 days ahead of me of working restaurant
Mm,
business,"
mm. Yeah,
and I'm, like, letting myself go into a negative and bad mood already. I'm like, "I can't. This is, first of all, things that I chose to do." So
right.
and w I'd rather try to make it through as positive as I can,
Yeah,
because negative, then it's just gonna be even worse. So, yes,
yeah,
it's hard, but I'm like, "I gotta do everything I can to smile through it," smile through the
yeah,
pain sometimes.
yeah. And even if you can't, you know, smile through it all, because sometimes I don't feel like smiling.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't wanna smile, and I know a lot of folks put pressure on women to smile.
Absolutely.
Smile! And I'm like, "Damn that. I don't need to smile to be happy."
Yes.
I'm happy in my own way. I don't need you to define it for me, and I think one thing that I've done and with a surprising, positive response is I'll look up women who are in the outdoor industry, somehow find a freaking email contact for them. If it's an ambassador, if it's an athlete, if it's a CEO, a board member, I would just freaking send them an email, letting them know about how I feel about the state of women in the outdoor industry. And a surprising number of women have freaking gotten back to me. And I've been in contact with them. And some of these women will be at the Women's Summit. And it's like, fine, what do you want to do? Freaking try it.
Yeah.
You never know what can happen. And that's how I've made a lot of contacts in the outdoor industry, is just sending cold ass emails to folks. And the surprising number of people who have gotten back to me, it's like mind blowing sometimes. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
this person really got back to me. That will make you smile.
Absolutely, and again, something that literally just happened today, a post I made on LinkedIn was reminding myself that when I started this podcast, it was because I had these, dreams of talking to women in these spaces, and I wanted to know how they got there. Tell me your
Yeah,
story, because I'm the stories I see printed in magazines or this, that, are nothing that relate to me. So I want to dive in. I want to hear more
yeah,
stories. I want to find pieces of other
yeah,
people that relate to me. And I had a list of people that were like dream people to talk to. And I've checked some of those people off. And I am like,
awesome.
wow, I have to remind myself that, like, at one point, this was just a pipe dream of
Yeah,
talking to women, and
yeah.
I've
Now it's
talked
a
to more women
reality.
than I could even imagine,
Yeah,
and never expected when I reached out and had
right.
0 platform or audience for this person to say yes, and they said yes, and I was like, "Oh, shit." I was
Right.
kinda like,
Now
"What
what?
now?"
Now what?
Yeah.
And
I was like, "Oh my god, they said
it's
yes." Like,
it's a
"Oh, no."
trip because I'm working on a project right now about storytelling. And a lot of these stories will be about women, not the women that you always hear about
Yeah.
either. It'll be women who are doing kick ass things, and not just in the outdoor industry.
Mhm.
They're doing kick ass things, and I want to know their story. I
Yep.
want to get their story out there. So I'm working on a project right now around storytelling and joy.
I love it. Heck yeah. I can't wait to hear more about that. And I mean, how we were connected over LinkedIn, probably through industry connecting this and that, but it
Yeah,
was, when you have all these connections on LinkedIn, you're not always directly actually connected and talking directly to that person. Maybe you're liking posts, commenting on posts. I love the platform for that. But
yeah,
you had been on my mind. We had been at, I think, Outdoor Media Summit a couple times. I'd seen you in passing, but never actually made the real connection. And then it was
yeah,
you who finally sent the message. I'm like, oh my God, yes, thank you for
yeah,
sending this, because you have been on the list of people to talk to, and here we are. And so
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
it's just getting those connections, shooting your shot, taking that
You
path, like
have
you said, and
to.
things start to reveal
You have
themselves,
to.
but sending that first message or email, taking that literal first step out the door,
Right.
all can be the hardest part, and we just have to get over that hurdle, and
Yeah.
like I said to you, I am not someone immune to that. I've done a lot of things, I've taken a lot of risks and things in my life and done shit without having a clear path or known what to expect, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that it's not a struggle for that first step every time. That doesn't
Right.
mean that there's still a million things that I wanna
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
I have been afraid to take that first step on.
And you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Jose Gonzalez and I, we always say they're watching because you don't know who's watching you. And you
Yeah.
may say something that strikes a chord with them, and they're like, I got to reach out to that person. So please put your messages out there so that folks can see them. You're like, oh, well, I only have 10 followers. It doesn't matter. One of those followers could be someone that connects you with someone else, and amazing things can happen. So follow your freaking passion. To hell with the naysayers. Follow your passion, because if you don't, that's all it'll be, is a
Yeah.
passion. It will never become reality unless you try. Try, fail, try again. Keep freaking trying.
Yes, absolutely. I can tell you that this conversation 1000% was had for me at the right time in a time of doubt and wondering,
Yeah,
how can I keep going when I feel like nothing's happening? Is it
yeah,
reaching anyone? Does it matter? Even though I do say all the time, like, if it helps one person,
yeah,
then I'm happy, which I am, but when you don't get that feedback sometimes, you don't know, I don't
yeah,
know, like, is it
yeah,
helping that one person? You
yeah,
question those things.
yeah, yeah,
So, but I do have to remember, and that is ultimately what keeps me going with the podcast and having these conversations, is that the belief that there is at least one person out there watching and
yeah,
will get something from it and something can grow from it that may not be, a monetized business or something, but
yeah,
it'll be some kind of growth for me. It will get me to the next step in my life that I couldn't have gotten to without it, and that can simply be, like, just growth within me and
yeah,
everything I've learned from the conversations I had. I
right.
have to have different, you know, expectations, kinda know what that there's more than one meaning to it all,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
keeps me going.
Yeah, I think all too often the messages we put out for the public to see are actually messages that we're sending to ourselves,
Mhm.
that we need to hear, that we
Yep.
need to read. So keep putting it out there.
1,000%, it's like the quote that's like, "Write the book that you want to read." It
Yeah,
is that's exactly what where this podcast stemmed from, telling the
awesome.
stories that I want to hear. So sometimes I say this is a selfish project because it's like,
Huh,
I wanna ask these questions, I wanna hear these stories, so I'm doing
yeah,
it.
yeah. And reach out to some of these CEOs and ask them to come on and have a
Absolutely.
conversation about their joy.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Teresa, it's been so great to talk to you. Like I said, it's fired me up. It's helped my spark flicker still at a time in the last few weeks that I've, to be totally honest with all of you out there, been ready to just like burn it down and turn around and just like, I can't keep going. I think we all have those moments. They come and go. But yeah, it's that's where my mindset has been recently, and like I said, it was couldn't be better timing for me personally to have this conversation with you to remind myself of those little
Yeah,
moments of joy. And before we get off here, will you just tell people where they can find you, follow you, get
yeah,
involved with anything that's going on, or whatever
yeah.
resources you have out there for them?
Yeah, I'm on, what am I on? Instagram, Teresa Baker 11. I'm on LinkedIn, Teresa Baker. Um, where else? Oh, insolidarity.project.com. You can see our films. You can see some of the projects we've worked on. You can get in touch. Um, yeah, and my hope is that you all will reach out and tell me how I can get in touch with you as well. How we
Yes.
can continue the march towards joy.
Amazing. Well, you all know to check the show notes. It's Teresa without a H if you're not
Yeah.
clicking the show notes and clicking those links, but you should be for sure. Follow her on those platforms, check out In Solidarity, and most importantly, find what it is that gives you joy. Go out there, do it, even in those little doses. It's I gotta take my own advice, so I'm right there with you, sisters. So
Yeah.
thank you all so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.